Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Fran Lavoie, and I'm here at a location that is not typical to the common locations that I go to. And if you are new here, I am a person that just talks about whatever comes to mind, whenever I feel like it, whenever I feel like sharing it with you. If you are here for the first time, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can know when I'm coming up. And if you're gonna comment, please be respectful and kind. There's no need to argue. Opinions and viewpoints are just that. We can defer, but there's no need to be disrespectful about it. All right. So I wanted to talk about freedom and what freedom means and how that can be different for so many people. Now, in order to discuss freedom and in order to discuss a sense of freedom or actualized freedom, one would have had to be shackled or caged in any way, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, right? When we think about slaves and think about slavery, even common day slavery, but historically, and being a Black woman, I'm going to only speak about African slavery and that trade. These people were physically enslaved, which then affected them emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in all shapes or forms, financially as well. Slavery encompasses so many different aspects of us. And the best way to describe it is not feeling free, not having the capability to do what you want to do when you want to do it, and feeling trapped by that. Now, big disclaimer. If you are looking to abide by societal norms or looking to abide by structures that promote freedom, there is a price to pay. What do I mean by that? In order to make money to survive, I have to go to work. I have to generate money somehow, which means that I can't simply freely always do what I want to do. That is common for most people in the world that come to a place where they're able to earn, and they have to work or they have to do something in order to earn, in order to survive, by having the resources to function in this life. You need to purchase water. You need to purchase food. You need to maintain shelter. You need to do whatever it takes to achieve the basis foundational arc of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Food, shelter, heat, warmth, all that requires resources, which means that we have to earn in order to get those resources, to get the things that we need. So no, I can't just be roaming around doing what I want to do. Some people are able to do that in more freelanced ways, hence that word free as the basis of what we're talking about. Freelancing meaning that they generate resources however they want to in order to get the things that we just discussed that we need and build upon that foundation. So this might be an entrepreneur. This might be someone who's a socialite. This might be someone who's sponsored. But majority of the world does not live that way. All in all, we all have to work in order to get what we need to get in order to survive. What I'm wearing today, whether you might think it's a basic outfit or not, my skin, my hair, everything, the place that I'm staying at, the vehicle that I use to transport me from point A to point B, required resources in order for me to obtain it, in order for me to basically survive and build upon that survival. Well, that in a nutshell can make people feel like they're on a hamster wheel. Well, in order for me to have these things, I have to generate income, generate resources in order to have this. And depending on the level in which I want to have it, I have to generate a certain caliber or level of resources in order to have it so that I can feel some level of satisfaction and wellness. That can almost always come with a price, which means that sometimes we're doing things we don't want to do. How many of you guys have been in a position where you are working a job that you don't want to work? You are in a position that you don't want to be in. It might not be the job, it might be the position. You may be studying something that you don't want to study, but you know that in the end, you are more than likely going to obtain a career, obtain a path at a job or whatever have you, that more than likely will give you a rate of return that will provide you with the said life that you want to live, right? And we are, let's not be intentionally obtuse. If you want to be a millionaire, it's either you're going to grind and build some type of a business or develop some type of a negotiation that allows you to get there, or you're going to go to school, which essentially is the same thing, to build upon a career that statistically can get you there. But in the end, it starts with you and how much you're wanting to put out. Now, I know people that because of how they feel about life, sorry about that, this was bothering me. Because of how they feel about life, for instance, I have a gentleman that I know that studied economics, and typically economics, this is the study of money and resources and how it is generated depending on where you're talking, and just how money works basically in a nutshell. And it's the study of how statistically money can grow, how it decreases. It's just money, and just the study around it. So basically, this person has an economics degree, had plans for that economics degree. Typically, people who study economics, they're either going to go into that field, or they're going to build upon it by probably going into law, going into education. Those are two common ways that people use economics. If there are other ways, please let me know. Well, after experiencing corporate America for some time, he felt trapped. And so it didn't matter how much money he was making. And it didn't matter how attractive making more money would have been. The emotional cage, the mental, physical, spiritual cage that he felt that he was in was so stressful. It was so daring that he dared not to go further into it. And he is doing something that is completely the opposite of what he would have, been doing. He makes a comfortable enough salary for himself. He budgets, and while he splurges on what he needs to, he has decided that he would rather live an average life. Now, when we say average, it's average based on his standards. I think he wanted to go to law school. I think he wanted to climb the corporate ladder to where he was so that he could be a corporate professional in economics, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, if not millions at one point, if he were to climb up that ladder. He decided not to. And I respect him for that, because even though his life could be a lot easier with the money, his life would have been harder in a way that he didn't want to, the way he didn't envision himself to, because he decided, I'm not going to go up this ladder that I don't really care about. I can still enjoy my life at this level without ever having to reach up the step of those ladders ever. He may reach up other sectors if he wants to, But he wasn't going to go that route because that was going to make him feel enslaved. Now, several videos in this channel, I discussed the same thing when it comes to my career, when it comes to how I essentially am choosing to freelance so many things in my life. I work part-time as a registered nurse. I'm an adjunct professor. I'm a musician and an artist, and I choose to live that way. Now, there are several people in my life, and I'll tell you this, that I have always been into education, which is why even when I deviated from music education and went into nursing, I ended up getting a master's in nursing education. I'm getting a certificate in family nurse practitioner, but I'm also doing community-based stuff with that nurse practitioner. I'm not saying that I won't do other aspects of mid-level providing in healthcare, but my goal is to do what the community needs, right? What I think is the most effective and how I can be an effect to people in the community. That is not generating the most money up front. And a lot of times people, especially consumers who are looking to go into college, who are looking into getting degrees, there is a good portion of people that think, well, if it ain't about the money, well, what is we doing, right? Which makes sense. My niece is going away to college and she's wanting to study law. And she's going to a institution that is highly regarded, which also means that it is highly expensive. But thankfully, she did very well academically in high school, where they're covering 100% of the cost for all 4 years, including her room and board. I think she just has to pay about $2,000 for tuition. That is a very incredible feat. I'm super proud of her. She actually did way better than I did, which when I say actually, I'm not saying it as if no one could do better than me. I'm just saying it to say, well, she actually achieved better than what I did because I got about 50% scholarships. I still have student loans that I'm looking to pay off. So I'm proud of her. I am happy that she's choosing law because she wants to do law. She's interested in law. The institution that she's going to is an institution that she revealed to me she'd always wanted to go to since she was 13 years old. She had been eyeing this institution even before she started high school, or at the time she was going to start. So she really worked hard to get to that place and did her research to get there because she wanted to. She's not studying it because of money. She's not studying it solely because she's going to make a buck. I think that has an influence as to why she's studying law. But I believe that when I talk to my niece, she is studying it because she wants to. And she doesn't feel like at this point, she's going to be trapped by something she doesn't want to do. So if you've been watching this video for the amount of time you've been watching and you've come to this point, you realize based on the story of my niece and based on the story of the gentleman, and if you've been seeing all my videos, the story is we cannot live in a encapsulated, very trapped mentality that keeps us in places where we're not happy, where we don't serve purpose, where we're not using our creativity and our God-given talent to help support people. I was trained as an ICU nurse in the beginning of my career. Now, I've spoken about this, like I said. I appreciate and I respect the rigor, the knowledge, and everything. I was just looking at my ECHO, which is the American Association of Critical Care Nurses program that trains people in critical care. I was just looking at that program and I was like, wow, like I finished this critical care program 13 years ago, got trained into an ICU that I wouldn't even, God bless them, they got my start. But because of my experiences, not just with the training I got, with the experience I got, with the amount of poor social interaction I got, with the poor peer interactions I got, I realized over time and through almost a decade of confusion, because of all those things I just explained, I experienced being trapped. I experienced feeling like I hate my career. I don't like what I'm doing. maybe I feel like I should go back into music. I've told this story before, but I'm going to preface it again. Then I went into music education. I started performing again, and then I started to feel trapped there. So no matter where I was going, I was feeling trapped. It took me a long time to understand that the reason why I felt trapped is because it started up here. And it started spiritually as well. So I was mentally and spiritually trapped. I had believed that God called me into nursing, which I believe he still did. But I was trapped by societal norms of, if you study one thing, that's what you study, and that's that. If you automatically switch to something that appears to be more financially astute, then you're doing that other thing for the money. That is the mental stigma and mental societal norm that we see. If you see somebody was a starving artist and they spent 10 years just being an artist for the man, I'm going to be painting. This is what I'm going to do no matter what. And then you automatically see them become a doctor. Your thought process is, well, what happened to all that you was talking? You said you was gonna paint and you ain't have to, you know what I mean? You were militant about it and now you're going into medicine. When the last time you pick up a paintbrush? See, that's the mentality that people tend to have, that in order to be real, we have to stick with one thing. Now, in that example, if an artist decides to go to medical school, we don't know why they did. First of all, in order for them to get into medical school, being an artist doesn't mean that you're not intelligent enough to go to medical school. It just means that you know how to use the right and the left of your brain so well that you studied art at a great level and you're studying now medicine at another great level. And if you understand neurology, it goes hand in hand. Science and art go hand in hand, and being an artist versus being a doctor doesn't mean that the artist is not as intelligent as the doctor, as the medical doctor. It's two different levels of intelligence. Actually, that artist going into medical school makes them a level of intelligence that can blow many people's minds. So catch those T's, right? So with that being said, me going into nursing after previously going into music and education, some would argue that the level of intelligence is through the roof. Well, for me, what measures intelligence starts up here and starts in the spirit. Am I mentally and spiritually intelligent enough to know if I can handle this and understand the purpose behind me doing something in the first place and pursuing that level of rigor, right? Why did I pursue nursing? Because one day I felt the Holy Spirit while I was in music school tell me, nursing. And for 1.5 years, because it was my senior year in my music ed program at the University of Miami, go Canes. And I'm at one of the top music schools in the world. Like, I'm studying education. I always wanted to be a teacher growing up. So it's like, what am I doing? Nursing. So I spent 1.5 years toying with that thought in the back of my mind. And then when I finally graduated, I enrolled in some science classes, in nursing. Now, this was during the housing market crash. So I enrolled in prerequisites to go into nursing. And then I entered into a nursing program the following year. And I heard so many things. At that time, it was the freest I felt. I was 24, 25 years old, and I was young. I had a degree in my hand, obtaining another degree. And because I am a scholar and an educational nerd, I was excited to be studying something different than what I knew. I didn't feel trapped. I didn't feel mentally caged. I felt empowered by what I was learning. And then, of course, the rigor of it hit me. But I started to feel mentally caged when I was hearing people talk. When I was around students in the program that made me lose the luster of what I was studying. Because they were talking about it for different reasons. Maybe I wasn't catching on the way that they were catching on. Maybe I thought about things differently than what they did. Maybe I was socially awkward. Not even maybe. I was socially awkward. I'm still socially awkward to this day, right? But because of that, it made me lose my luster of why I was studying what I was studying. Then I started hearing about this nurse practitioner, and I'm like, oh, I've got to do that. And music is still there because I'm teaching music to a degree, But then I started to feel like, because I kept hearing people tell me, you a sellout, you're doing nursing because your mother's a nurse. You're doing this because of it. And me telling them, even people in the church that learned the same things I learned, that I perceived, understood. No. But God led me to it. And watching their faces, watching their demeanor towards me show that they didn't believe me, did something to my esteem and did something to my beliefs that made me feel trapped. Then I get into an NP program right after I got my license, because I had a bachelor's and RN license. And then feeling like, oh, I'm going to be a nurse practitioner. Great. Then hearing, well, you need experience, you need money. And being the wannabe financially astute person that I am, I felt that way too. I didn't want to be living under the thumb of my mother and her financially taking care of me, and my dad, even though I knew that they would. At that time, I'm 24, 25, going on 26, feeling, I need to provide for myself. So I didn't think I could do the critical care residency in the NP program at the same time, so I let it go. This was 2012, 2013. Then I entered into this critical care program at said hospital, and I endure some of the most interesting personalities, and I felt trapped by that. Now, the rest of my career, I've told countless stories. I would encounter people with all types of perspectives, and I didn't know how to handle and emotionally regulate those perspectives. All in all, what I'm saying is that anything can make us feel trapped if we allow it. It's either something is trapping us, something is enslaving us, or we, because mentally and spiritually have not matured in that regulation, we literally give our wrist up to be clinked. And that's me taking accountability and responsibility for the fact that I didn't know how to regulate what I was receiving, what my gates were allowing to enter in. And it was making me feel like I'm doing this for the wrong reasons. Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to do that. Oh, maybe I need to do this. And I went through so much. And then I started to think that I needed to make a certain amount of money, and then I would fight against that. Luckily for me, the spirit that God gave me is so strong, and I'm so grateful for this, that even when I start down an unfamiliar path of thinking of, okay, well then maybe I should become a certified registered nurse anesthetist, even though I don't like critical care like that. I'm just intrigued by it. I don't like being a practitioner of it. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. You know what? Maybe I should do psych. You know what? Maybe I should get out of nursing altogether. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I am a sellout. Maybe I had to emotionally regulate and realize maybe I should need to sit and think. That wasn't a good sentence. Maybe I should sit down and really clear my mind and understand that people are going to think what they think. Society, US news may say that this is the best path for you to go, this, then the third. But you start to get inundated with that stuff day to day, that you start to lose your purpose, and then you start to feel like this fog, and then poof, and now you're lost, and you're enslaved in a lost, very dreary, very foggy path. So not only are you trapped by these negative thoughts, these confusing thoughts, now you don't know where you're going. And you're shackled, lost, not knowing where you're going. That is what I endured for a decade, if not more. And kudos to my gentleman friend that I told you about, that he when I talk to him, he always appears so strong-willed, and I just don't feel like doing this. I just don't feel like doing that. It don't matter if my friends are doing all this. I'm not gonna do that. I'm intrigued by that, right? My niece that I told you about, she was very just like, no, I'm gonna do this. And I admire people that understand that against all the pressures, they're not going to be peer pressured into being swayed left to right. You know, like there's a scripture in Ephesians chapter 4 verse 14. It says, we're no longer swaying with every thought, every single way. I'm paraphrasing. You know, we're rooted and we're planted, right? I was once rooted and planted, then trying to understand different philosophies and different thought. I didn't know how to maintain being planted while hearing other people's thoughts and seeing their path as theirs, because I came to the thought process that, well, what if someone's trying to teach me something that I can adopt into my lifestyle? So I started to adopt so many different things into my lifestyle while still being enslaved to a thought process that wasn't helping me. Well, what helped me was really surrendering to Jesus each and every single time and letting him clear my thoughts out by just sitting and listening, reading the word, understanding that God gives us free will, and that if I wanted to quit all this stuff today, I could, right? But at the beginning of this video, I spoke about resources. And while I can quit, number one, if I want to be a follower of Jesus and I know that the Holy Spirit led me down this path, I want to follow Jesus, so I'm not going to quit, right? But God gives me free will to do this thing how I need to do it. As long as he's not directing me like, you're going to do this with this, God gives us the free will as long as we're in the path and we're not deliberately disobeying, right? For those of you who aren't Christian and you don't understand, you hear. It's all good. So that was one thing. The next thing was mental health therapy. I needed to go to therapy to understand my emotions, understand how to regulate them, understand the external world and how to regulate the external world. What I was hearing, what I was seeing, and what everybody else was doing. It didn't have to affect what I was. The next thing was just using basic wisdom, right? I had to learn that God gives us free will and wisdom. And so while I can follow God down a path, it also has to make sense, right? And I was delusional for a long time, thinking like, I'm going to be rooted and I'm going to just wait for the Lord to show me. And there were times where I would be waiting and I would lose myself in so many, and I would be down certain paths that just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense financially. It didn't make sense resource-wise. And I was just losing myself. I was in positions that I didn't need to be in. And you don't know what you don't know, right? When you're not exposed to something yet, you're just not exposed to that thing yet to help change your life. And to help you see that there's a way to go down a path that is for your good. Another example of this is being in a position, and because of your mentality, and because sometimes we're in positions and we're clear, and then we see an opportunity, and because we're clear and because we're using wisdom and we can see that situation for what it is, and we can grasp onto it if it makes sense. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we just put it down and move along. I was trapped in a spiritual cage of, well, if God leads me down a path, then I have to stay in that exact same path, and that's it. And if I can't, and if I'm in any path, we're gonna have ups and downs, even if we're doing what God tells us to do. But I wasn't using wisdom in those paths. So I was putting myself in situations and making my trials worse than what they needed to be. Does that make sense? It's kind of like you're gonna win some and lose some. But there were things that I was losing at that I didn't need to lose at. There were things that I was gaining that I didn't need to gain. And if that doesn't make sense, just let me know in the comments. But it's like, I didn't need certain relationships. I didn't need certain jobs. I didn't need certain things, certain, positions to prove a point to who and to what, right? Like, God was so patient with me in those moments. Like, it's easier for other people to go down a path and they seem happier than you, and they seem, because they're either trusting me, using wisdom, and just following their free will in my path, or it looks easier for them because their motivations are different and they're going to obtain it. And when they hit the wall after they've obtained things, then they'll see, and then they'll have a life change. And maybe then they'll follow a path of integrity in doing what they were purposed and called to do. So in the example with the artist, if that artist is mentally caged and enslaved to being a raw artist that is like, I'm gonna paint and this is how I'm gonna make my income, and how I'm gonna do it is being on the side of the road, and if somebody throws me $20, that's what I made. So I can say that I made money authentically as an artist, and that's that. I don't need anything else. I don't need to be corrupted by the man and capitalism. If that's what you want to do, cool, right? And if that's what derives you happiness, great. But if that same artist want to complain about not being able to purchase clothes, living under a bridge because all they made was $20 in that 1 week with that one painting that somebody bought 5 weeks ago, if they're complaining about why they don't live in a nice thing and this, that, and the third, baby, I can't help you with that, because this is the path that you chose. And if this is the path that you're happy with, then so be it. Or you could be an artist that says, I'm going to create a business model, and in order for me to sustain that business, while I'm doing art, I need to find a part-time job so that while I'm doing my art, I can also not make just $20 here or there, so I can actually make a salary so that I can probably then, room with somebody, right? Right? So let's say that artist gets a job working at Starbucks starting at $17 an hour, and she working 24 hours a week. She could still do her art, and then maybe she could put her art on social media. And maybe if her art is great enough, she can sell her art, make commissions off of that. Maybe she'll get noticed by a art gallery that wants to put her art there, right? Or maybe she can just start like an art gallery of her own and Patreon and be like, look, I got a store online, you can buy my art. And maybe she can become so great and probably take some marketing classes alongside and learn how to market her art so that she's making money on her art while she working at Starbucks barista, and you know how they be, making the white chocolate mochas for us, right? And doing that so that she can have a living while she's not sacrificing her art, but she's working, right? So that she can support her purpose, right? Or she can take the route that I originally spoke of and say, you know what? I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my ish, right? And I love art. But I also like eating filet mignon too, right? So how can I still be an artist and eat filet mignon? What other interests do I like that are economically pleasing? And what can I do that is going to help support my art one day while still doing, and something that I enjoy that I can do while still being true to myself as an artist? To me, that is how people should do it, right? Picking up a trade, picking up medicine, if you're interested in it, several things can be true at the same time. You can be an artist. You can be a sculptor and also enjoy anatomy and physiology. You can be a musician and be a composer and all that, and still enjoy psychology and say, you know what, I'm going to become a psychologist and get my PsyD or PhD, and in between that I'm going to be sculpting. You can do all that, or you don't have to. And that is the beauty of freedom, right? Freedom mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically frees you from the shackles of how you should do things and how you should live your life. Some people believe that being a Christian and being a follower of Christ traps you. No, baby. I'm going to tell you, and this is not opinion, this is actually fact to me, and we could talk, right? Just respectfully. It actually sets you free. It actually sets you free from a rat race of feeling like you have to do it this way, right? It actually sets you free from feeling like you can be lawless and just do whatever you want, how you want to do it, and not having purpose. And even if you have purpose and you're not a follower of Christ, it sets you free in a way that only if you encountered Christ you would know. To know that, hey, what I'm doing in this life has a different purpose than what I originally sought it. And it's freeing to live in that purpose. And it's freeing to let go of what I believed once was. And everybody has that day. And we thank God for it. But it literally, the shackles had to be broken to me. I put my wrist out. It's starting to rain, so if you hear thunder, I put my wrist out. And I was emotionally broken and beat down. I did that to myself because I thought in order for me to do things a certain way, I needed to do it like this. And I realized that I was doing it those ways because I thought it's what I had to do. I thought it's what God would have had me do. God, why would you put me in this if you didn't want me to reach the top? And the Lord had to humbly tell me on several occasions, you can do what you want to do, but I'm glad that you followed what I wanted. I'm going to still love you regardless. Would this path be better for you? Absolutely. But you're trying to aim higher because of what you think you need to do in order to be happy and to make money and to pay off your debts and to do that. I'm not telling you to do it that way because I know you and I know what's going to hurt you in the long run. I know how I psychologically built you. Psalm 139 is our favorite, verses 13 and 14. He fearfully and wonderfully made us, knit us together in our mother's womb. So he knows how he psychologically set us. He knows how he emotionally set us. He knows how Fran was going to be at my age now to what, and versus who I was then. He knows. Did I delay certain things? Absolutely. Because I was caged up. Breaking the shackles in my spirituality with Christ, breaking the shackles mentally allowed me to break shackles physically, professionally, educationally. And I'm still breaking them because now, as I'm finishing a professional certificate, now as I'm an adjunct professor and teaching when and how much I want to and how little I want to, really. Me working in surgery where I felt like I just found my niche and actually made me a better nurse, actually made me just regulated emotionally as a nurse. It made me excited to learn more, excited to grow, right? Me doing everything that I'm doing and still having the time to compose and teach music and still perform. People will be like, oh, you're doing a lot. When I tell you the balance that I have with my life is so sweet, of course, I put in work, you know, but I'm working smart, not hard, because I actually enjoy my life the way that it is. I actually feel like I am following the Lord because he led me into nursing in the first place, and he led me into music. I actually feel like I've got a groove. And have I had trials and tribulations along the way after I've been set free from myself and got myself out the way? Absolutely. There's things that, I could have done earlier, things that I didn't have to do. There, even some performances in certain collaborations I didn't have to do. But that's a part of the journey, right? At least I'm not chained up to a thought process of how I think I need to do it. And if I don't do it that way, I'm a sellout, or I'm not going to be pleasing God. God is like, first of all, bump them people, bump society, do what I'm telling you to do, do it how I'm telling you to do it. And you'll be all right. You're going to be good. So if there's a path in your life that you are not sure of, if you feel like you're just on this rat race and it just doesn't feel good, are you putting too much on yourself? Are your standards way too high for what needs to be done? Do you have a goal for your life that you feel doesn't match this current one? Are you doing exactly what you need to do, or exactly what you should be doing? Those are all questions that you need to ask yourself. And if you don't find that you are, you really need to sit and really think about, if you could not make money like that. This is a question that they typically ask. If you could do something, for free, they say that's the profession that you should go into. I would say, not just for free, but if you could do something that you would enjoy, that even if you were annoyed, even if you didn't make money that day, or even if you made the most money that day, if even in the midst of the ups and downs, you could still find yourself saying, you know what, I can still do this, I would say pursue that. And you would find that if it's a path, if you're a follower of Christ, that God is leading you down, that it looks different from what you thought your path would be. Those conversations with God, I found, could look like, Lord, was this you, or was this me being pressured into what I think I need to do? Lord, why did I get the hunch or the urge to do this? Is it financially motivated? Is it motivated by prestige? Is it motivated by status? Do I really even care about these things? And if I don't care about it and it's something new, why are you putting this in me? You can ask God, right? Don't make the mistakes I made and just blindly go into things. No, like, God made us intellectually intelligent for a reason. He gave us intellect for a reason, and everybody has varying different levels of intellect to ask questions like, why am I doing this? Why? And these are questions that we ought to ask. And when God gives you an answer, or if he doesn't, he says, trust me, and you start to go down that path and you feel peace and you feel like, wow, I'm obeying the Lord. Granted, your motivations have to be correct in order to be saying that you're following God. If you're just saying you trust in God, and child, this is about you trying to look cute in a house in Parkland, that's not God. Because God could care less about material aspirations more than you having a purpose in what you're doing, so that in that purpose, if it manifests a house and cars in Parkland, then so be it, but you're walking in a purpose, right? If you say that you're trusting God. Otherwise, if it's about the money, just let it be about that, right? But I would question if you're happy in the long run if it's just about the money. Because many people, and I work in healthcare, that do things simply for the money, eventually there is an expiration date. And a lot of times they are walking dead, doing these professions in and out that they are good at, but they're not happy at. And I just decided a long time ago, just like my friend who studied economics and decided that he was going to do the job that he's doing now and he's happy, And my niece, who knows I want to do law at this time, she wants to be a lawyer. So she's glad to study the things that she's studying. I decided, you know what? If I'm going to do something at this point in my life, it's because it's Holy Spirit led. The Lord led me. I'm clear on why he wants me to do it. And if I feel intrinsically something pushing me to do it, even if I don't understand it 100%, I feel it, but it makes sense along the way. I'm not depriving myself. I may be putting in more elbow grease. There may be some sacrifice, but I'm not causing a threat to myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, all those things. I've seen God take me, even when I felt like I was at my last dollar, take me from stage to stage in every area that I'm in. Even in the bad and even in the low parts of being in these paths, I could look back and be like, that is why that happened. And there's some stuff that I'm still waiting to see, like, why did that happen, God? I can look at my failures and the mistakes I've made and learn from them. I can look at the losses that I deserve to lose and be like, you know what? I was wilding. I can look at the things that I gained that I was happy to gain and be like, wow, God, thank you. When I didn't understand, I still trusted you. I can look at the things I gained because I wasn't obedient and be like, I got to deal with this. I got to deal with the circumstances of this and the consequences because I chose to wow. So there's always a reason, right? And even if you're not a believer in Christ, you know that these virtues I'm saying are true. When we delay something that we know we're supposed to do, but that would be beneficial to us, or whether we jump too early at something, or whether we're doing something for purposes that aren't real, we're putting ourselves in a cage. And we're putting ourselves on a hamster wheel. And some people sacrifice peace for that hamster wheel, but I choose to hold on to it. So it's your choice. Are you giving your wrist up to be clanked to slavery? We all got to eat, but how do you want to eat? Do you want to eat knowing that you're all right? That even if you have that anxiety in the morning, like, I just don't want to go to work, I'm just so annoyed. Probably have that mild to moderate anxiety that most people have. Like, I don't want to do this presentation. I don't want to work with this person. I don't want to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever time. I don't want to. That's all normal, I've learned, right? Like, I used to make that an excuse, like, that just means I'm not doing what I need to do. And then when I would hop from job to job, when I would hop in and out of professions, I realized, child, if I could roam around and be free, that is my dream, right? But because, once again, I'm dressed up, child. You know I'm going to go eat after this. And I'm going to spend me a little coin, all right? Because I like that. I like nice things. I like that. Let me continue doing this. And when I find myself being joyful at work and being good at what I'm doing and growing in it, I realize I was just being fussy and annoyed because who wouldn't want to lay around and do nothing all day, right? But I still have purpose and joy and peace in what I'm doing. That is the bottom line. If you got anything from this video, please drop down in the comments and let me know. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share with a friend. Listen, do not be enslaved mentally and spiritually. To me, that's where it starts. It eventually affects your health when you are slaved up like that, when you are caged up that way, by a life that you have the will to create for the better. Like God is amazing. We follow his path, and then he wills us to a beautiful life that we can create, that makes our purposes and our personal lives and everything shine so bright. Because essentially we're being true to not only God, but to ourselves. So thank you so much for listening. Peace. It's been real. and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.